and welcome to No Skips, a show where we talk about albums where you don't skip any songs on the album. Today, we are talking about the 2005 release from the band, Panic at the Disco, the album, A Fever You Can't Sweat Out. This album, by the way, is, I don't want to say my wife's favorite album, but it is dang near close, okay? It is dang near close, one of her favorite albums. It's certainly a core memory for her, I can tell you that, because it doesn't matter. This album came out a while ago, back in 2005. She can sing every single lyric on this album, every single one. And it's almost like she wrote the songs in a way. She didn't, but it's almost like that. It's one of her favorites, and I'll be honest with you, it's one of my favorites too. I had really enjoyed Panic at the Disco when they first came out, and this album first came out back in 2005. I thought they were different. The pop punk scene was, really starting to erupt. You had Fall Out Boy out on the scene. You had Green Day's American Idiot, which was a huge album back then. You also have My Chemical Romance, which to me, they kind of freaked me out a little bit, I'll be honest with you. My Chemical Romance kind of freaked me out when they first came out, because the first song I heard from them and first music video I saw from them was Helena. And not to go off on a tangent about My Chemical Romance on a Panic at the Disco thing, but hear me out. Helena, the music video, reminded me a lot of the 90s movie Mouse Hunt. Like, if you go watch Mouse Hunt, and you get like the scenery and the colors of the movie and that sort of thing, and then go watch the Helena music video, you might get what I'm saying. Otherwise, you're going to be like, that guy's crazy. And that's okay too. That's okay. But as far as Panic at the Disco is concerned, I thought they were different. I thought that they had, something special, something interesting to say, and an interesting way to say it. Their music videos were great that they came out with for this album. And their live performances. Now, I've never seen Panic at the Disco live in person, but I did watch on YouTube, actually. They have the whole video up there on YouTube, a concert that is basically this album when it first came out, and just how much energy and how much showmanship they had in that show. It like blew my mind, because like it would be fine if they were just out there with like a backdrop that said Panic at the Disco behind them and they're just playing their music, but they're not. They have like a whole circus theme, and it's like everybody's in costume, and there's even a whole segment where the guys are taking a second to, get a drink of water or whatever, and they got special performers that come out on the stage to keep the crowd going while they're doing that. Like, there was a lot of effort and thought put into how they wanted to present themselves. And that, to me, as a young kid, I was like, that's really cool. That's different. And like I said, they have something interesting and an interesting way to say it. And I think most Panic at the Disco fans would agree with me as far as this record is concerned. Now, let's get to how long this album is. It is 39 minutes long and 42 seconds. We'll round up. We'll say 40 minutes, okay? You owe it to yourself to spend 40 minutes listening to this album. And I'm going to say that about every single album on the show, but I really mean it on this one. You owe it to yourself. The singles that came out. Are you ready? So the first single that came out for Panic at the Disco from this album, A Fever You Can't Sweat Out, was The Only Difference Between Martyrdom, I knew I was going to say that wrong, and Suicide is Press Coverage. The next one was I Write Sins, Not Tragedies, which we all know that song. Like, I feel like even if you don't know who the band is, you've heard that song. You know that song. It played a lot on MTV and VH1. But It's Better If You Do was the next single that came out. Lying Is the Most Fun a Girl Can Have Without Taking Her Clothes Off. And Bill God, Then We'll Talk. So that's 5 singles off this album. And by the way, the album came out, like I told you, in 2005. The last single, just to talk about the longevity of how long this album was in people's, minds, in the forefront of their minds on the radio. Their last single came out in 2007. That's like 2 years worth of material they were able to get out of this album. That's pretty astounding. And as far as how many songs are on this album, on the regular edition of it, there are 13 songs on this album. And I love all the singles. And I told you before, I love the music videos for this. The music video that they did for Lying Is the Most Fun, that was really cool because they had people in like fishbowl heads. If you remember that music video, if you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's worth the watch. But they had people in like fish bowls. And one person, you know, tripped and fell and broke their fishbowl, and then everybody kind of came over and was like trying to, you know, help this person as best as they could. And I'm not saying that like the music video had anything to do with like the lyrics in the song, because I didn't make that connection, but it was still an image that I have remembered since this album came out in 2005. So that just kind of shows you sometimes those music videos have that type of longevity. And again, it wasn't, you know, they never had that music video where it was just the band in a warehouse, you know, a dungy looking warehouse or grungy looking warehouse, and they're just playing in front of nothing. They didn't do those type of music videos. They took it to a whole nother level. And, you know, kudos to them for doing that. But 2005, A Fever You Can't Sweat Out. Some of the other songs on this album that I really enjoy outside of the singles. I really enjoy the 12th song. There's a good reason these tables are numbered, honey. You just haven't thought of it yet. That's a good one. I constantly thank God for Esteban is another good one on this one. London Beckoned, songs about money written by machines. And Time to Dance is another good one as well. But again, you really can't go wrong with any of the songs on this album. And I tell you what, like I said, it is one of my wife's favorite albums. And I wanted to include it not just for her, but also because I really enjoy this album. You know, when she puts it in the car, I'm not throwing a fit about it. Like I enjoy it, and I always seem to find new things. And I know she was really invested in this album and still is. So she knows a lot of the background. Like she should be the one doing this episode, really and truthfully. But she was telling me stuff about this album that I had no idea about, including how every song is kind of connected and they tell a story of a kind if you're actually paying attention to it, not just listening to, you know, how pretty it sounds and how awesome it is. If you actually pay attention to the lyrics, there is some storyline there going on. But again, this album blew me away when it came out. Really, to be honest with you, this band blew me away when they first started. I know that they're no longer around because Brendon Urie has decided that he's going to go be a father, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm certainly glad that we have all the albums we have from Panic at the Disco. In my opinion, my humble opinion, I think this is the best album they did, was this first one. And I feel like because of changes in their lineup, how do I put this? Because I don't mean to sound disrespectful, but I feel like because of changes in their lineup, they got further and further away from being the band that had something interesting to say and an interesting way to say it, and more towards, we're going to put out songs that help us pay the bills, get people to show up to our concerts, and get on the radio. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, because bands evolve. We all know that. But I feel like if they would have been able to continue doing not the same thing, but albums like this in that vein, I would have been very curious to see how long they would have lasted and how far they could have went. But hey, you never know. They might come back and they might, you know, they might be able to do this here in a couple of years. You never know. I know Brendon Urie, like I said, right now he's taking family time, and he certainly deserves it. We all deserve family time. So I was actually really impressed that he made that move, to be honest with you, because a lot of people, they don't have that ability to say, you know what, this is not as important as my family. So kudos to him for that. And like I said, A Fever You Can't Sweat Out is a no skips album. If you did find a song to skip on it, you let me know in the comments below. But I got a feeling you won't. Okay, but make sure you listen to this thing again. 39 minutes long. It's worth it. It's worth it, my friends. A Fever You Can't Sweat Out, Panic at the Disco from 2005. That's all I got for you for today. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will talk to you on the other side. Hey, be good to yourself, be good to others in that order. See you soon, my friends.